Well, hello there, everyone. He show you right here is like a little grade book, design right here, and you see right here like a little, if we want to call it like your brochure, like type grade book. But think about right here is like for like anything that's going to be based on like any kind of grade report, and also known about for 2430, and this idea I was also thinking about as to where if I want to go ahead and use Photoshop just to present this work as well. But then on your hand too, I was like, well, I'll go ahead and add the grade B in there, in which I know that anybody that may warrant where this right here would be a a picture right here of like me, and I'm like, yeah, that from all the other pictures I have used, I was also thinking about as to where really, I'm like, is that really me right there? And so especially that whenever I yeah, don't even see where I'm wearing any glasses. So I'm thinking that more likely that this was me right here. Whenever I was in the second grade, I kept thinking about maybe in the first grade, but whenever I was very young, and then you have right here, so the grade book, and I may have explained it before about anybody that may want to wear that. Yeah, that for the amount of work that you had to do, especially on weekends or maybe during the week, and it may be a little bit too much, and we may think that how much is really too much, but maybe 500 pages. I'm like, have we really done the math? Have we really counted? But on the other hand, that you have right here is with 2430. And this idea actually came right of most of us have seen from 2410 is that talking about for 24 hours a day, and then that plus on the weekends for 7 days a week or so. But I went ahead and provided in right here for 24 hours a day, and then 30 days out of a month. So let's just say that if we could maybe give ourselves 1 month to go ahead and set a goal to where how much we can get worked on and managed and completed within those 30 days. And I know sometimes it's like me, it's like to where that there's 31 days out of a month or so. I think usually around January and April or so, like yeah, that I think in January, like about every 3 or 4 years, it seems like that there's an extra day add on, especially for like February, if it's going to be like leap year or something like that. But anyway, somebody actually, I think that's 29 days. But anyway, but talk about for 30 days, 30 days per month on average. There's between 29 to 30 to 31 days, out of a month. So just thinking about as to where that whenever we're looking at our schoolwork, and we may think necessarily to where, are we thinking necessarily to where that can we handle all this work right here? And I usually think about as to where that kind of look at what needs to be done, and also think about as to where that maybe if it's not all done, and just thinking about as to where what could be managed later on. So I could probably say that this right here, yeah, the picture right here of me, like I mentioned, but then you have right here is like for anybody that may say is to where that 24 hours out of a day, but then knowing about for 8 hours that we may need that for sleeping, or in case of something comes up to where if we get sick with something, or maybe something that gets postponed or anything like that rescheduled, and then that puts us on a spot to where that we have to wait until later to to get something work. But you have right here some examples right here. Yeah, this right here maybe just look like maybe a few, but later on, anybody that may warrant to where, yeah, later on that you may post something else. And I'm like, yeah, especially like if it's going to be maybe online for screencasts, is that if I'm going to be updating the library, or maybe anything else that I'm doing, maybe on YouTube as well. But on the other hand, that you have right here is like for 2430, and we may think that yeah, out of a one full day, 24 hours out of a day, that more likely that what all that can be worked is to where that you have right here is like, yeah, that especially at nighttime, that we may think that there may be some days to where we may only sleep for 5 hours, and we get up and we may want to decide that get our homework out, and then maybe do a little bit of our homework. Maybe if there's going to be an assignment due that same day or that morning or so, then thinking about is to where, yeah, that typical thing, the typical study about the moon right here is to where that, there's these right here look like two different images right here of the moon, but like, from the other, video at, work that I was, where, that I put up, about, I think it was about 4 days ago, talk about for 2410. And also is known about is like, I don't, could not really explain a whole lot about as to where that, why is it that kids, younger ages, between teens and even adults, as to where that, they may think that, 5 hours at nighttime, let's just say between the hours of 11 p.m. and maybe 5 a.m., that they want to go ahead and stay up at a late night hour, maybe after midnight, to work on something. Why is it that maybe that they, would rather do that, other than that, yeah, well, do it in the morning, maybe do it during study hall, like during study hall hour or something like that. So I keep thinking though that, yeah, it's all about us to where maybe not too many people bother you, and then maybe not too many distractions. And I'm thinking that more likely that could, about maybe 45 or so percent of anybody that may say that, not too much distractions going on, especially at nighttime. There may be 10% or 15% that may state is to where that there's just more help available, to where if you're going to be getting assistance from, by maybe tutors, or if it's anything like that, and you're like Warren, to where there may be quite a few reasons to why that you would rather choose nighttime to work on any assignments or any research or anything like that, compared to during the day. So we may think about as to where that, yeah, it's something that we need to have done before the interview necessarily. So that after we graduate, that we have an interview or a meeting to go to the next morning. So there's papers that we need to fill out before we can attend that meeting. So that basically means as to where, you may wind up spending a couple of hours between 10 and 11 and maybe 12 o'clock midnight, going through the papers and making sure everything's correct. And so they're like thinking about as to where, yeah, that it's kind of, surprising is knowing about that, if any of this, all the time is all recorded in the gradebook. But let's just say that on average, to where that whenever we file our taxes, especially, is that, anybody that may wonder to where, how old were you whenever you started doing your taxes? Like, think about, what does that have to do with education? And I'm like, well, nowadays, even like, say, the schools, it's like, some of the elementary schools, I'm sure that that, like some things that you may have to, pay for, especially. And I could probably say that, I was also thinking about right here, it's like it used right here, is the word book right here. Book basically means, it's like, do we all remember about, if we ever ask the question to her, what does B stand for? Or that, about book, is to where that, yeah, book. Like, say you get a book to read, pick out your favorite book, to read about, if it's going to be children's book or something like that. Whenever I was in the first and second grade, I can remember that I had quite a few favorite books, and one of them, I can't remember all the names of them necessarily, but I don't think one of them was Green Eggs and Ham, or, I'm trying to remember about, the books that I may have read in the library. If I can remember right, and one of them, I think, yeah, Stuart Little. Yeah, I'm like, I can remember, that was not the first grade. If I can remember right, that was the sixth grade. If I can remember right, that there was a book that Stuart Little, and maybe a few other book titles, to where I'm sure anybody that may think that, that they would make a movie about those, or maybe do like documentary, or maybe a cartoon TV show or something like that based on a book. So, anybody that may want to where that, a lot of the fiction and non-fictional books that you may read about is that knowing about the author, but still, that when we go into the library, and especially that, like, say, for the GradeBook, is to where that, a library that, back in those days, it was only open, during a certain time of the day, but then, like, they have this online stuff to where that, yeah, that you have access to it, about 24 hours a day, 7 days a week or so. And then you may have to have a library card or so, and then due dates, like whenever you check out a book, and then for all those other, policies about that. But on your hand, for like 24/30. I was also thinking about an idea as to where, like, for instance, brand new grade book is that thinking about, by the time I was born to the time that I, get into college, and anybody that may think about it as to where, yeah, that a lot of things that you've had since you were a kid, besides a television set, or maybe besides, maybe something else that you may still have, and you're like wanting to where that, yeah, that well, maybe even a college fund or something like that. That you talked about going to college ever since you were in the fifth grade or so, and you're like wanting to where that, anybody that may want to, or let's just say this right here that would have been me right here, like I said, mentioned, possibly in the first grade. But let's just say that right here, this was like maybe my first grade photo or my fifth grade photo, and I start talking about, yeah, going to college and getting a good education. So people may think about, yeah, take it one thing at a time. But you have right here are these pictures right here, to say for 24 hours a day. One's at the sun. This one right here, this picture right here would have been taken, I think, right around June or July of, from 2 years ago. It was from 2014. And then these other pictures right here, which I'm like, yeah, that I think they were taken about 3 years ago, something like that. So we're like wanting to kind of look back at these and like wanting to it. There's like really a time difference. It's like from 2 years ago, about how many minutes and hours. So that's equal to, but really about for what we call, for a new book, for a brand new grade book, 24/30. And basically, what this means is right here is to where that out of the 5 or 6 weeks, say out of a month, is knowing about for how much that was improved and how much that was accomplished, and knowing about for how well that we can, succeed in this, for our goals, as to where I have included right here as a message right here to, for any of the graduates, and knowing about, the grade book that provides the information about the school and then the students, for how well that they learned, say how to participate in class, and then, for their performance as well. So a lot of this stuff right here that, which I know that anybody like saying about, it's like for like a brand new release of a grade book. But on your hand, and I can mention anybody here that, yeah, I try to make straight A's, and I try to make A pluses, but sometimes it just wasn't possible. So it's like, yeah, I was a B student, and anybody that may think about, yeah, B, I'm like, yeah, you were a B student. You didn't make very great. It's like you try to get an A, for anything that you were working hard on, but then it seems like it wasn't possible. So thinking about as to where that, yeah, that a B that may stand for what you call book, for book, for what you call for what needs to be improved. This is your newest book from, yeah, hey, that you were missing a few things. So B may stand for what you call your book from what needs to be improved before graduation, or B may stands for, which say from the best behaviors or something like that. But then on your hand, that the scores, that the scores go between 75% to maybe 89 to maybe a 95%. And anybody that may warrant to where that, yeah, they treat you for an ice cream if you make a 95%. So I try to make a 92%, but sometimes it may wind up being an 87%. So we all think about as to where that, yeah, that if it's a spelling test or anything like that, I can remember my teachers a lot of times that they would write down the scores, but then you're like Warren to where that what between A, B, and C, that what the scores, what the final score is. So a lot of times that if I see maybe a C on a grade report, then sometimes I keep thinking about as to where, what did I do wrong? What am I missing? So, I mean, now I know that could be frustrating too with quite a few students, but then on the other hand, you're like wanting to, it's like for anything exciting is, for like the brand new release of, the new book. So if anybody were wanted to, where how do you say book? It's like, from you, whenever you were in the first grade, you may pronounce it as book or book, book. But then whenever you get into college, it's pronounced book. book. So you're like between buck, beak or buck or book. So there may be other words of how we can maybe describe your book as to word it, besides brochure, brochure, like I can maybe pronounce, for brochure, is that basically that, if it's pronounced with the B, for, the BUC is like, for brochure, is that it's basically information to where whenever you do get a job, and then you get a good paying job, and for improve your education, and thinking about as to where for 2430. So whenever I think about this, and like anybody will probably think about it, so if you're going to be working days or nights, and you're like Warren to where that that it's okay, I guess, if you're a night person, like if like you're working at night, or maybe like working during the day. I guess whichever that you decide on, huh? But there may be some requirements too based on that. But anyway, but there you have it. It's like besides for 2410. This is an idea that I came up with right here. I talked about you for 2430. It's like anybody that may want to where that 30 days. It's basically means like for 30 days, and even on the weekends, and anybody that may want to where, especially on the weekends, especially during the summer break. Some, maybe not all students, they want to spend a whole lot of time doing work, and then having to go to meeting to meeting, and then having to go to appointments, just to be able to improve their grade point, their average, or maybe their brochures and other sources of schoolwork. But on the other hand, that some students that may decide this as to where that they don't want to get too far behind. Maybe it's their opportunity to where that they want to show a little bit of good performance, as to where that they want to they may think that they are getting a little bit behind, or if it was just optional, as to where there may be a student that may want to speak up as to where that they want to work on improving their scores, and so they may decide to come into school, or maybe to come into class, or maybe to look at something or research something or work on something even during the weekends. So, 20, there may be 24 hours out of a day and 7 days a week, but then on average to where that we may want to where did this extra 30 come from? And I was also thinking about as to where the next activity that I'm like thinking about, do people get my point by now? If I'm going to be doing one about maybe for 2450, then you're like Warren to where I have a full year. And any students that may want to where you ought to do one for maybe for the whole year about how much work has been completed, how much work, how much progress, and how much improvement that has been completed from the whole year. But this right here is just talking about for 1 month. So anybody that may want to where, are you going to be doing one for the whole year? And I'm like, it's possible, depending on how well my videos here do and professional work. It's like for anything that shows improvement, especially. But you have right here, it's like you have right here is the grade book score right here for B, and like anybody that may want to where am I that disappointed about that I was trying to work for an A, but then I got a B, but or maybe a C plus if you got a B plus or C plus, or maybe an A minus, and we're like wanting to where hey that you may be disappointed a little bit about the grade score, but then on the other hand too that they're saying about is to where the people that know you're working in, as well as the teachers, as well as the schools, and that they may actually love the way that you're trying and doing your best. So that just because that the grade looks like this right here, that may not mean to where that they don't love what you do. They don't they're not proud of you for what you're doing. So that's something to think about, as to where that like anything about 2430 is to where like a student like me, to where there was one time to where that anybody that may wonder to where that you spend your time, especially on the weekends, you're playing around with your little voice recorder, and you're not really doing your work and anything that I want to have recorded. But really that maybe if it's between spelling and vocabulary, words, English, writing, or anything like that, as to where how long do I think it would take me just to do a lot of these tasks. And my answer more likely would be as to where if anything, I'm going to say it would take me 3 days and then to give me up to 5 hours, and more likely I'm going to see what I can do. So that's just the thing about being a student, is to where that from the time that we were born till we graduate, is that we may think as to where whenever we're young, we may not realize about how important some of the stuff is. About do we have a favorite book in mind? Do we think about writing a book, or is like for a book that's what you call that records our scores, like final scores for our records? And I'm sure anybody that may think of like understanding about for kids, friends, cousins, even the grandkids, and knowing about the important reasons for education, is that knowing about the book is about, is about me. So right here's a Photoshop work right here of me, whenever I look at a picture right here of my reading glasses, anybody that may say, yeah, well, you had a learning disability, you had problems, you had problems that need to be taken care of. You were not able to manage all your problems and try to solve your own problems within a certain amount of time. But on the other hand, I keep thinking about is to where, this idea right here for 2430 is thinking about is to where, I may not have been an expert and a genius compared to everybody else. I may not have been a professional, compared to everybody else. I may not have been a straight A student compared to everybody else. But then on the other hand too, is just knowing about is like, I try to work towards my goals, and I try to do my best just like each and every time, is to where that, maybe not everything is going to be what you call the best. But then on the other hand too, is knowing about is like for because that whenever whenever there's something what you call brand new about for what all I do, is that I set a goal as to where that this is how much really what I can get done, just like whatever I can manage within that first day and within that first week or so. And it's thinking about us to where whenever we do get a job, and then we're like Warren, to where that for what's called the best book that is posted or anything like that, anything updated, and knowing about keeping up with the with anything that more likely that for the sake of the best responsibility for whatever's sake for what we can manage. But other than that, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Manny 25. Manny 25 here in Top Leslie for do whatever it takes. Really, I might do what it takes to where if we gotta speak up about something, to how to be able to improve our score, and a lot of times that's usually what I think too, is to where that really that there may be some times to where we look at our grade reports and we may not be very happy with all that was accomplished, and then as well as any concerns of the matter. But on the other hand, I guess the best thing we can more likely do is to where, if we want to try to change something, and then it more likely is to where that maybe that, it's possible, we can maybe try, try in our own manner to go ahead and try to work on improving what needs to be done. It's like we think that, something that maybe looks best, and then we go ahead and work, for our own time, is to where that, what we think that looks best and what we think that that would help our education improve our scores, then more likely they say it's like, yep, well, as long as you're smart about it and knowing about what you're doing, do what it takes. But other than that, like I talk about right here, it's like for the brand new grade book, it's like 2430. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.